One of the original questions we had to ask ourselves was the great big question about microformats or IDFA. There's a lot of arguments that go on about this stuff, but essentially microformats allow you to make simple statements on a page unobtrusively and require a lot less work to integrate than RDFA. RDFA is a lot better at making much more complex statements. Because we were making simple statements, and we won't always be making simple statements, I don't think, hopefully we'll be making more complicated statements later on. We've started off with an extension to some existing formats. So one of the things that we discovered, and when I first got involved in this, we talked to a lot of different people, and a lot of different people had reinvented several microformats and were, not reusing things that already existed. So we started from a base of just extending HATM, which is essentially a format used for blog posting. And actually, a lot of stuff is in there. Publication dates and titles are already there. But there were just a couple of extra things that news organisations would like to say that are not covered by HATM and don't really make any sense in HATM because of the fact that HATM is a one-to-one representation of the atom format. And the atom format doesn't cover any of these things, and in order to get these things added into the atom format would take you a very long amount of time. Can I have the next slide? So an example of, let's say, a typical news story, marked up in a relatively same way, and there's no way within that news story that I can say, as a standard, be able to say, here's when it was published, here's who it was by, or any of this kind of stuff. Or here's what the headline was, although that's an H1, so that would be too bad. But what we've done is we've essentially added on some extra stuff on top of HATM. So here you actually made a relatively small amount of changes. And what you've then allowed people to see is publish and update times, who the authors are, but you can have multiple authors in the article as well. If you use the role attribute, you can also specify who edited the piece, which is an interesting piece of information that nobody at the moment is currently publishing. You're missing at the bottom. So that previous piece was just HATM, which allows you to see those extra things. But also here, we talk about some extra statements that aren't in HATM that are quite useful statements to be able to make. So, for example, here we say this article conforms to a set of principles. One of the things that differentiates a newspaper or a news agency or a journalistic blogger from a gossip rag or commercial content or a press release is the principles by which a piece of journalism is actually produced like that. So that's quite important. We talk about rights as well. So legal codes for rights, and we've put in source organisations, which works quite well for if you're publishing stuff straight from an agency like AP or Reuters or PA. So we've added in quite a lot of extra stuff.
And I should say at this point, again, just to backfill the story a little bit, we discovered, as you often do when you're working on new things on the web, that a few months back, that we've been thinking about how to distinguish news content and how to mark up news content consistently. It turned out that, not surprisingly I guess, news organisations have been thinking along some of the same lines. And AP particularly, Associated Press particularly, have been thinking about this for quite a long time. And fortunately, we met up with them and started discussing this with them at a stage where both of us were still trying to work out exactly the best solution and the best way to mark up content. And so we started working together with Associated Press to get it right, to make sure that it was right. Not only because we wanted to get obviously the best solution that we could, but also, of course, because for a beta pilot, as they're going to do, means that this will be suddenly integrated to literally thousands of articles in a very short period of time. So we'll know very quickly the usefulness of it. We'll be able to, people will be able to start using the articles in very different ways. We've put together a very alpha search engine, which is designed to allow people to search, to filter by different methodologies, so you do much more targeted search, etc. So we also, I should say, already have gone live with this on the Open Democracy website, and I'll explain the ways in which you can see that. One of the difficulties, of course, with anything like this is that an awful lot of it is invisible to the end user, or relatively invisible. So it should significantly improve search. It should allow both new organizations, but particularly third parties, to enable people to search much better through better filters, through targeted search, etc. A lot of that people probably won't notice at first, or they'll think, oh, look, it's working better. Oh, look, I found something quicker. But we think that over time that will actually have make a significant difference. This is the alpha search engine, which you'll be able to find.
It's worth pointing out as well, actually, that the search engine, it's open source code, it's on GitHub. One of the things about this is that as well as just being a search engine, it also has JSON outputs. So you can use it a little bit like the Guardian content API. And also, as well as that, you can take it away, run it against your own sites, and just have a version that only does your site, and you can stick your own templates over the top of it, and actually use it to power your internal newspaper search, which is quite interesting.
Is that live? Is that
Well, that's not. We can go to live.
It's online.
It's currently live. It only has Open Democracy's articles in it, and only the last couple of days. Which, you know, it's convenient seeing as I'm talking to you. It only has Open Democracy's articles in it, and there are a bunch of features that should be in it that aren't currently in it, and it's designated alpha for that reason. And as well as that, we don't actually publish the API. The API is actually just adding .json onto the end of search, and then you'll suddenly get JSON back, which is obviously quite useful. There's all sorts of neat things you can do with that.